Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. So today is already off the hook insane. I have one of my favorite guests and people, my friend Deete from Utah is here. And you may have remembered you were one of my first interviews.
Oh, was that one of the first?
Yes. And I was all excited. And I couldn't believe you answered my email. And I was like, oh, she's so nice.
Because you were so professional. I thought you'd been doing it very long.
No, I'm a little girl inside. So we are, I think this is airing in December. And it is, what are we in? We're in November.
Yeah.
And Mercury is retrograde. And I need to put that out there because here is the day. It's not, the day hasn't even started. First of all, I gave 2 addresses for Starbucks. One, not there. The second one on the parade route, which how in this country can you not find a Starbucks? That should be insane, right? So also, I get to the third Starbucks and my friend, who I didn't even know worked at Starbucks, that came to the show last night and brought me artwork, is working behind the counter, right? And before I went here, I went to a store because I wanted to get you a gift. So I got you a little Russian Shugnite bracelet, which I'll talk about Shugnite in a second. And outside the door waiting to open are 2 people, and I go, well, it must be a popular crystal store. And they go, hey, aren't you Karen Rontowski? And I was like, oh my God.
They knew you.
They knew me. So I don't know what's going on, but this is kind of, isn't it crazy?
It is weird. Well, and then, so on the way here to meet you, my Shugnite bracelet broke in my hand. And I kind of put it in my cup holder, but then when I was getting out to Starbucks, I had this feeling to grab it. Like, just grab my broken bracelet.
This is
so weird. And then you brought me this.
It's beyond crazy. And I asked them to give me a new drink. I said, I'm vegan, just surprise me with something. And we're outside Starbucks, so you may hear some noise. But, and you have to go. I'm already like so codependent, like, all right, I got to make sure Deete's out on time. And whatever it is, it's delicious. It was a soy latte something, but it's very, very good. And I think today's podcast will either be very informative or simply you and I giggling.
I know. Well, because, so I didn't tell you this, but on your birth natal chart.
On mine?
Well, on like the whole idea of a birth natal chart. So in mine, my Mercury's in Scorpio. And we're in retrograde in Scorpio, and Scorpio rules like my whole chart. Like everything is in Scorpio for me. So it's like just a weird, I don't know what's going to come out. I don't know if like it's going to make sense.
You will make sense. You always make sense. And I will, as an interviewer, guide you. If we go off the rails,
like, wow,
or I'll put a joke in. When someone goes off the rails, I put in a joke. But so much that I want to catch up with you. But first of all, Reincarnated Mormon, that's the YouTube channel. And that's kind of, they put that in Google. They can find you anywhere, right?
So I changed it. I had a feeling to change it this last year to Reincarnated Mystic, to kind of like start branching out from just the Mormon group. And I think it's gone well.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And I was watching some of your videos. Of course, I started that and then couldn't stop and came up with the first topic. Now, I want to tell folks, if you didn't hear the other podcast, you're a channeler, a remote viewer, a psychic. You do kind of everything.
Yeah, everything's psychic. So because Scorpio rules most of my chart, it's very like in depth. It's very dark, secrets, occult, esoteric stuff. So
I love that. That's why we're here. And you also have this thing that I feel like, hang on, I got to get courage, some water here. You have this, and Jessica kind of has this, and I don't know if this is a trusting thing, but it also goes back to my synchronicity with you, or just in general, because you were talking on one of your YouTubes about a draconian.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and I keep seeing things, and I keep blowing them off. And then I see you, and I watch your tape, and you see the same thing, and you know what it is, and you talk about it, and you're like, why does it look like that? And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that difference is, but so tell folks what a draconian is, and then I'll tell you what I saw and why it meant so much to me.
Okay, so what I know as a draconian is or at least how it appeared to me, I think that they can look different. Like I've heard some people say that they're white. Mine was black, and it had like black wings, kind of like these, I guess in the shadows it looked like Batman because it had like these wings and it kind of had like these like ear type things.
Is this an alien or a spirit or a...
Well, from what I understand, it is like a separate entity from another dimension. So I wouldn't say, so I guess alien, but...
Alien to us, but not an alien.
Yeah, like some people say like, oh, thought forms, you can create these dark thought forms. This was like a separate intelligence of something that like seemed like it had another world that it like operated in. Does that make sense? Like it just didn't seem like it was a thought form. Because I've seen thought forms and they're very like, more like shadows and more like you can feel
transparent.
Yeah, and you can feel like they might have attached off of somebody's thoughts, like they're from something from a human thought, versus like a draconian has like a whole other intelligence that even like I didn't even fully understand.
And you said something in here because I have done like my last 3 tarot readings, because I do tarot, but I'm getting off the cards now, which means I'm just going with what comes, and I've had really good luck. But for the last 3, and I only said this to one, hang on, there's some sort of a loud dumpster coming our way. But this is so weird why I would see your tape and see you. The last 3, exactly as I close my eyes and focus, something opens up black wings like Batman.
Oh, really?
I'm not afraid. I don't know what it is. I kind of just push it to the side. And then here's what's interesting. Hold on. This is what the Matrix is doing. I swear to God, Jessa always says, watch when you start talking about something we're not, the Matrix doesn't.
I was going to say something, but I was like, I'm not going to.
They're like, send a custodian. I only said it to one person, and she was like, yeah, I don't know what that means. And then when I saw it with 3, I was like, okay, maybe this is about me. And then it went away, and something came back that looked like more like a spirit guide that I'm comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And on your thing, you were talking about how it's not necessarily something to be afraid of.
So... let me just think about how to answer that, because I feel like they can be dangerous.
Okay.
And I feel like if you invite it to be a part of your life, it can mess with things in your life and free will. Because I think it has an intelligence that humans don't understand and can't really like coincide with. It's not like an interaction. Like I think it can overtake you.
See, and that's exactly because I had trouble with a fairy that got attached to me. And it was bad. It was, it was like mistake 101, which I know everybody, I've said it a million times, it's almost ready comedically to be put out here. And I did make it funny, but it's like I'm unbelievably careful. Even I think I've seen angels and I've been like, everybody slow down.
Yeah, well, isn't that where they got the word spirits? From the fairy, like they're like when you're drinking and stuff, it can be a fun time, but it also can get you in a lot of trouble, and it's a different energy. Like it's very mischievous. It's not like
it's
the
not
way
our
we think.
ethical group.
Yeah,
and yes, and that actually happened when someone kind of talked me into doing a witch spell, a fairy spell, and then was sort of like kind of left me there, and I was sort of like, whatever.
They opened the door and left.
They opened the door, and then I didn't know what to do, and then I was the only one that I kind of attached to. But it's a very weird thing because I'm always aware that now me and this thing has a connection, and I see it sometimes, and I'm like, But so when you go, say you're in a meditation or something, and you see something like this, of course there's always the stand your ground and know who you are. But is there something else? Is it just faith that keeps you from being afraid? Or I know that I call it kind of the loud American, where we're like, nothing's going to get to me. Me and God are here. We're better than you. And it's like, hold on.
Yeah, so I guess the one thing that comes to mind is like when people practice magic or when they use divination tools to call upon deities or different like entities, there's this idea where you work with them. Like you do a process where like they give you information or they give you some type of something that you need to help you on this earth. but it's not a one-way street. You have to do something for them. And that's where we get these like blood sacrifices. I'm not into blood sacrifice or anything like that, but there's certain deities that like the human blood, and they will give you certain like energetic power if you exchange this, like just this type of stuff. And I guess it's kind of like the fairy stuff too. Like it reminds me of this movie my children watch where like the fairies are grumpy, but if you give them honey, they're like your best friends, but you have to keep giving them honey. And so it's like, what exchanges are you going to be making with these entities? Are you willing to be able to have the power energetically to cut them off when you're ready? And that takes a lot of energetic understanding. Like it's not something for people to open the doors with. You have to understand how energy works, hermetic law, like all this kind of stuff.
See, that's exactly, and it's so funny. In fact, I think this episode, you're airing after the lady talking about dragons, which was a good one. But before that one, it was I interviewed Richard Sugg, who's a fairy expert, wrote books on all of them, good and bad. And that was the big thing is we had done a string spell. We tied string or something, and then she said, and this is the offering of chocolate. And she hung it in my apartment. And then left it in my apartment. And I think the thing was like, I'm back for my chocolate. And then there was not another chocolate. And it was kind of like, well, here we go.
Yeah.
And it was I got very angry and stuff. And that's so do you just kind of keep your space and do your own thing, or do you study, or do you use any of this? Or when you saw this thing, were you just like, no? Or
I think when I started my awakening, they just came. Like, I don't know if it was tied to like my past lives where I had summoned them in the past, and it was like, I don't know. I just am trying to think about why they were so quick to come into my reality. I don't know if I had made agreements before this lifetime, which with a chart of all Scorpio, it makes me think that maybe I did.
Right.
But I've had to be very like, I'm not interested in this right now. But they don't ever really go away.
Right.
They're there when you summon them. And it's funny because I don't know if I told you this last time, but I was sitting putting makeup on in the mirror. I think I said this. And I was thinking of a particular entity, person. And I guess there's a thing called mirror magic, where if you think of this entity over and over, if you think of something over and over, you can summon it through the dimension of the mirror.
Wow.
And it popped in and was in the back of me, like stood in the back of me and said, "You've summoned me."
Wow.
I know. And I was like, I didn't think I did. But the thoughts over and over repeatingly just, and I was in kind of a meditative state with putting on my makeup, how you're just quiet. And so I realized like even just your thoughts can kind of bring that in.
And doesn't it feel like it's even stronger now? Like right now it's almost instant.
Yes, because I feel like the veil is just so different.
It is. And and we thought this wasn't going to get going, and I'm already like, I have 1,000 questions. I feel like, too, I agree with that. I also think certain people, like Tommy, my friend, the demonologist, who removed the fairy from me, seems like he was chosen when he was young. Like this started happening very young, and he educated himself, and he kind of knew this was his thing. He also knows very much how to step back. But I think everybody, that's like why I maybe that's why I'm the interviewer and not the interviewee. I tread carefully, and I like to ask because I feel like you kind of knew this thing. So you saw this draconian thing, and you kind of said on your thing that you weren't necessarily afraid, but you weren't sure. Did that end up being something, or did you have a communication with it?
So it was weird because I was in this weird state when it appeared to me. So it appeared twice. The first time I was like, I don't know what this is, and I kind of just ignored it. The second time, like there was an inner knowing of recognizing, but consciously I didn't know how to like interact with it. And so I kind of like turned away, and I feel like it's appeared to me in meditation, it was directly appearing to me before, like face to face. And so I don't know if it still tried to like give me contact and stuff, but I don't feel like I'm ready to interact with that energy in a way that I am able to handle it. So I've stepped back and made sure that I'm like in the light, doing more like, because I just don't know if I'm getting myself into like too much. Yeah. And so I go and research and just like know how to like, use my energy to block myself off if like things get out of control, I guess.
See, now that even makes it more interesting because I wonder if I'm seeing your thing and it's kind of like, I know she's going to talk to Deete, so let's give this more energy.
Do you think? Well, there may be. I mean, that could be, but they're kind of all over. I feel like
I'm a big Mothman fan, but it wasn't a Mothman.
No, because my intuition says Mothman is not as intelligent. Like, these beings are highly intelligent. They're very, like, they know energy.
If they're there, it's purpose.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's crazy. So you just try and stay in the light, stay with your guides, and just kind of stay like you just sense. Because I think you and Jessa, who I just introduced you to, you guys are going to have a fun time. I think that you guys have had sort of that initiation through alien interaction that was positive.
Yeah.
And so I always think, do you just feel, when something like that comes up, you just figure, I'm not open to it, I'm going to turn my back to it, I'm going to be okay over here in the light, and don't worry?
Well, I feel like it keeps coming back in to give messages, to be able to share, I don't want to say dark messages with people, but to tell people about that polarity. So I feel like they're wanting to give those messages to wake people up to that dark side so that people can be aware of it. But sometimes I just feel like for myself, it gets too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to get too much in that area. Because I started to when I first woke up. Like, I got into, like, so much, like, dark magic, philosophy. I wasn't doing it, but just understanding it. And I was getting messages of it. And I had to swing back into love and light because it can overtake you if you don't know about your own energy. So,
yeah, I feel like we're communicating with these things when we do, and somebody has to know. I think that's why Tommy takes big breaks. He takes big breaks, and he won't work on cases between October and January because he says the veil is so thin it can go backwards. Like
interesting.
Yeah, but also. It's very, I mean, I think that's kind of where my podcast fits in because I feel like I keep it positive enough, but the information is important to have without connecting with these things. I had a thought there, I forgot. It does seem like, when you said the darker messages, hold on, you were the one you were worried you weren't going to be able to hold on to your thoughts, and mine aren't. I'm the one that aren't holding.
Well, do you think that the entity appeared in your mind to give you some sort of message for whatever you were engaging with that maybe would have been dark, but necessary? I don't know.
It may have been, but I don't feel... Maybe it did, and maybe it came through my tarot reading while I gave what I had to give. But it was just there for a second, and I kind of blocked it out because I get, like I said, I get very, and then I call in my guides because it was just that thing. You only need this to happen once. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So I did make another mistake I went to an investigation that turned out to be demonic, and it was like. It was very funny because it was someone I knew, and Tommy and I were laughing because he was like, every time you get there, they go, oh, I forgot to tell you this. And that's the story they should open with. That one where terrible things that can, and you go, yeah, you should have told me that on the way. That would have helped out a lot. And so there ended up being, the thing did not really come after me, but it's a long story, but I was talking to Tommy about it. And he said, trying to keep me from being afraid because, he was like, you got to keep courage with you for 2 weeks. So I was like, what's going on with that? And he said, demons, that word used to mean teachers because they were teachers of people that were on the wrong path. So,
awaken them maybe to something more enlightened.
Right. Like my experience showed me, don't just trot in there. I see the paranormal investigators, some of them that are like, I want to see something. And they go in yelling and I'm like, no, good luck with that.
Yeah. See, and that's different because I sometimes feel like the demonic realm is separate than the draconian realm. Like, I wonder I feel like there's something that overlaps, but then when you think of demonic, I've seen demonic entities and they don't necessarily look draconian.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's different layers. For example, so I used to work at a substance abuse place for women. They were getting off different substance abuse that they were addicted to, which was incredible, like so much spiritual energy in there.
Right.
But in one of our meetings, there was this I don't even know if it was a demonic entity, but some type of dark entity standing in front of one of a lady. And she looked like she had been suffering from depression and just like some self-hate and I couldn't tell if he was taking the energy from her or if he was giving her these thoughts. It just seemed like he was hovering over her. And then I communicated to it, because I was on the other side, that I can see you. Like, I told it telepathically, and it came over to me. Like, and it was this dark kind of cloud that came over to me on the left side, and I got a seizure.
Oh.
I got a full-on seizure in front of everybody. And that feels different than the draconian for me. Like, I don't know if it feels kind of the same, but it also feels like they are used for different things.
And you don't have seizures. That was a one.
No.
That was a one and done.
Never had a seizure.
See, that's the part where, and I feel like where you feel like everything is learning, is when I was in this person's house. I will never forget that feeling.
Yeah.
And it was, hi, little bird. A little bird came to talk to us. This day, that bird is close.
All of a sudden it transforms into like a draconian.
But it's like every cell in my body was aware that something was there. And so I thought that was the lesson. But you're right, it probably is. I didn't feel that kind of, in fact, sometimes I think when I feel like the fear for the draconian, it's more like when you tell yourself, oh, I'm in a dark parking lot and it's scary, so maybe I should be more open to it. But I just admire how you go in. You're like, oh, there's a draconian. Like, wow, how did she do that?
I guess like the biggest thing is I don't want people to, I feel like humans categorize things, and I feel like there is a lot of entanglement, but I also feel like there's different roles for different entities. And draconians feel like they have a very specific kind of energy.
You know, to me, it does sound like they may have a message. You know, of course, I lean on the dark side, and this is a paranormal podcast, but I think we're up for some garbage next year.
2020?
Yeah.
I've gotten that for a couple years, that 2020 to 2021 is kind of an interesting, and even like, I don't know if you follow astrology, but a lot of astrologists are even saying that like the planets are aligning to start opening up the secrets, or, you know, like kicking up a lot of those secrets. So it'll be interesting.
And that is the perfect place to take an ad. We'll be right back, folks. From my podcast series, Conversations with April, April Readings is here. How are you, lady?
Hi, Paranormal Karen.
How would you describe what you do?
I'm a psychic medium, animal communicator. I'm also clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsensory.
And clairfun. Don't ever forget that. You're always fun. I get readings from you all the time. I call you when I'm in a pinch. What can someone who is getting their first time reading expect?
I love to start with what I call your psychic inbox, and that's where we get to see spirit messages, energetic pictures, and any information that's actually important for you to know about today that you might not even ask about. It's what brings you to the reading, and it also creates a context for the rest of your reading.
And then?
And then you get to ask any and all specific or general questions about any area or relationship in your life, and we zoom in on that.
That's my favorite part, because you are so specific and one of the most accurate readers I've ever been to.
Thank you.
AprilReadings.com is where anyone can book a reading.
Yes.
And then at April Readings on Instagram.
Yes, definitely follow, like, and share. And my commitment is really that it's fun and that people leave energized and hopefully with a little bit of healing.
And a lot of inspiration.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, so we're back frying up the Matrix here at Starbucks, where the universe kept moving, which is weird. Also, just to add a little mention to how crazy this weekend has been for me, is I have pink eye, I think. Right? Do I? I think I do. I can't get into the urgent care. I just need that little thing. But I thought it was so weird. And please do not be shameful to people with pink eye. Because everybody was like, get away. And I was like, I'll stand
You're
back.
like, I'm not going to get too close. You don't.
I didn't do something bad. It just happened to me. So hopefully I'll be at the clinic after this. But, and you have to go too. So talking about next year, now all two things, there's sort of all these versions could happen at once, which is interesting because Jess is always talking about there's going to be a split where sort of the third dimensional people and the rest of us that are woke, I guess, for lack of a better word, are going to another place, which to me sounds like the rapture.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that. In fact, when I was first awakening, I think we talked about this last time, there was this alien being that came to me and showed me these images of kind of like a rapture feeling where, like, you know, there was like this idea of like the cities and people what it felt like was people in 3D did not want to face the shadow. It was a complete resistance, and so darkness had overcome them. And it was a choice because they didn't want to transmute that. They didn't want to face that within themselves, and so it just completely took over. And then it felt like there was a lot of people going up into like the mountains and like away from like high populated areas.
I'm hearing that everywhere.
Is that another? Okay, because this was told to me 5 years ago by the alien.
Yep.
I know some weird telling, like saying it out loud, but I know that like
you know who I am. I want.
Yeah, so I was like, okay. And I actually made a YouTube video about it right after it happened, and I took it down because people are like, what?
Wow.
What? You know, and I'm like, maybe I'm facilitating in a thought that hasn't been created but wants to be created. So I have just backed away from that idea and have let people make their choices. But I think there is a huge calling to face the shadow and to see that we've been in a dark age kind of and move into lightness. And some people just they're not ready.
I couldn't agree more. And also the, not just that, the astrologer that I like the most, and her name is Joni Patry, Patry. And she's been talking for a long time, and she's a very positive, like, let's all think positive so this doesn't happen. But she was saying that the planets are aligned like they were at 9/11. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll talk, and she even puts out the date February 19th, around there. And sometimes when I talk to people about that, I forget, and then I'll get an email. We're very worried about a motorcycle going by. No, we're very worried about what do we do in February? And I'm very like you. I'm kind of like, it's all going to happen how it's going to happen. We're going to do our best, and that's all we got. And get informed. But it's almost like I'm feeling such a, like even you, and then I was like, hey, Jess is here this weekend. There's some sort of a gathering going on because I read tarot cards for some rich people. And I'm nothing against rich people because I would very much want to be a rich person. But you know, there's a LA type that's a stereotype that I never run into. And I ended up reading tarot cards at their party. These were the angriest people. They were yelling at me. And they're getting it for free. The other guy paid me. They're getting it for free.
You're like, I'm here for entertainment. Like,
yes, and there was so much, I didn't sign up for this, and why is this happening to me? And, you know, a lot of my tarot stuff is, well, listen, this is, you know, you created it this way. This is why you want to change it. Da, da, da. And they were not having it. And I thought, they were so used to getting everything their way, and now that everything's getting a little rough, they are, you know, that's not good for them. But I always like that meme of the spiritual awakening is not like the sunlight and you're floating. It's like devastation.
It's facing a lot of darkness that you've been in and surrendering to that and trying to transmute it. And that's what like alchemy is, the transmutation of something that hasn't been beneficial into something that is like gold.
I love that.
Yeah, but it's hard because we come from a generation that was narcissistic, right? Like, what do they call it? The baby boomers, where they had everything and then they gave their children everything, and it's like this material world.
Yeah.
And we're trying to transmute that, and it feels weird because we don't want to go back to scarcity, and the material kind of substituted that during that baby boomer time. And so it's like we don't really know what kind of world that will feel like. And so it's
worse because everything is delivered at your house.
Everything is owned by Amazon. You can get it in a day.
It is. And now they're racing. Somebody else gets it to you a day. And then it's kind of like I'm trying to set these limits.
I don't know.
That's correct. Yeah, he can't see well, so he's a little crabby. Oh. Yeah. He's okay, though. He's 16.
16.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Courage?
Courage. Hey, Courage.
Yeah.
It would be if all of a sudden he just like attacked.
He does sometimes. People. So some nice people stopped and wanted to pet Courage. I think, well, they obviously didn't know we were taping, but Courage really can't see too well anymore, and everybody wants to pet him, and they reach in, and he goes, wah, 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 and it's obnoxious and embarrassing.
But kind of funny too.
Well, you know when it's funny is when people go, oh, no, dogs like me. And I go, no. And then I go, okay, go ahead. And I'm like, and then they look at me like, you're an asshole. And I'm like, I said it 3 times.
Well, the way he looks, he's just like, you know, so it is it. I can see him.
And he's very tricky. He does it quick. Like he looks at you out of the side of his eye. You don't see it coming at all. There's no growl. He looks at you out of the side of his eye and then he goes, so he's sitting in the sun enjoying. But But yeah, it's a funny, like, I don't feel fear for what's coming. I kind of feel, this is weird, maybe it's my dark side, but I kind of feel like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's, you know what I mean?
For the change, yeah.
Yeah, we must be here for a reason.
Yeah, and I feel like you are very advanced. For
Me?
Like, well, I do, yeah. I feel like because of that, because you're very open, you actually remind me a lot of Elizabeth Gilbert.
Oh, God, I love that.
I love her. I love her. And I'm
big
like,
magic.
Yeah, you guys are very similar in energy, and I feel like the more open you are, the more you're called to help make a safe container for this transition. The more resistant and blocked you are, the more it's just going to like keep pushing back at you.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel open is a good word. I always look though at you and Jessa. I think I'm the connector. That's what I think my job is.
And everyone has like their specialty kind of.
Yeah, I got somebody call me my dog. It was the animal communicator. You go to this person for this. Watch the you know what I mean? But it's funny that I feel like you guys are definitely one level up, and I'm always like, when that rapture comes, I'm going to be like this. So pull me up, all right? Can you look back and pull me up?
We're like, where's Karen?
Yes, I know. She's still making a podcast somewhere. So many things you do. Now, you do automatic writing, right?
I did a lot in the beginning, and practicing channeling with my voice has strengthened. So I do, I think, more of that now.
Now, when channeling is, because you have a lot of great tapes of channeling of different people, and does that feel different to you, or does it just like you just start talking and it seems to be happening?
Now I just start talking and it seems to be happening. When I first started, I took on way too like a lot of their energy. So my first video was of Princess Diana. I don't know if you saw that one.
I did see that one.
I don't even know if I took it down because it's like really intense. Like her energy is like just overtaken. And I've learned through time to kind of have my space and have energy be in their space, but be able to like telecommunicate that energy without having it like completely take over.
Is there a difference between channeling and medium? I mean, medium is talking and channeling is being?
I would say that a channel is called channeling because you're opening your intuitive, energetic channel to somebody else's energy and channeling. Because I call artists channelers, or you know, anyone in theater can be a channeler of different energy. And then a medium is like that middle ground where you can translate it out into something physical.
I think that too. I think anything creative sort of is coming from somewhere. And that's that Elizabeth Gilbert book, Big Magic. That was so good.
So good.
Yeah, and it's, in fact, I just got an iPencil, and it's like the greatest. Talk about materialism. I just got a new iPad and iPencil. And it just sketching anything, like I'm learning more about art, and I think it helps out with everything. Do you find, do you teach people? Do you teach
how to
them
do a
medium or channeling or stuff like that?
I do, and it's funny because...
Why aren't these online?
Well, I haven't done it online. I've done it locally.
Okay.
But I should do it online. You're right. But the people that want to learn the most are the most shut down, which is so funny to me. Yeah, every class I have, which has been small and local, there's always one person that's like, I really want to learn how to channel and be a psychic, you know, and you're like, all right, then I'm going to spend a little extra time like trying to hone in. And they're the people that have the hardest time. And I'm still trying to figure out why, but it's a hard thing to learn because we're not trained to be creative. And that's why I like Big Magic so much, is because it allows you to give yourself permission to be creative. And I feel like we're not allowed to.
And when I went to Austria, I remember that art was everywhere. Like the bridges had art on them. Like it was just, I think that's how I want to live. There's another weird thing going on where I'm throwing everything out. Like my apartment is virtually almost empty, and it feels so much better. But yeah, this transformation, I think next year, I don't know, and this is not to scare everyone, but I don't know if we can get out of this situation without civil war or something happening.
I feel like it just depends on if those people... I feel like those people.
I know.
Because I have it too. Like I resist things too. But if people in general don't resist and feel safe, like, and that's where compassion and people like you that are like, I feel like just having that safe space to build community and feel heard and understood is going to be really. Because my husband is very, so I love him a lot, but he's very traditional and very like, this is the way that we've always done it. It cannot change. And I'm trying to ease these new ideas because I'm not sure that those ways are sustaining, and everything's going wrong in his business. He continually has, because because the universe is trying to get that old way of doing things to move forward. And it's slowly been happening the more he lets go. But a lot of the times in the beginning, he tried to control it back.
Yeah.
And that's where we could get problems, right? Like,
yeah, I think that's part of the... And I'm very controlling, and I'm not good about the political thing either. I'm trying. In fact, I try to spend more time with people with opposing opinions to get like, we're all, I almost wonder on that. It's very interesting. Yeah, I think that is it. Tradition, and they call it the patriarchy, which I don't think it just means white men thing. I mean, I think it means that old thinking is, it was almost like those people at the party, like he's fighting against it. So it's not. You had the best video on what to do at a holiday party if you're not, was great. Tell everybody what the answer was. And this could work for a political thing, or for you, it was because you're not as Mormon anymore. You're not Mormon
so
anymore.
All my family's Mormon. All my husband's family's Mormon. So, if you get into that, or, if you're in politics, if you start talking politics, it leads to just,
death.
Awful. So what helped with us is just being a little more surfacey, but fun, like games. And children, I think, really unite families and babies just because they're so innocent, and it brings in that joy. So I found that that's what helps integrate the old and the new, is like the new life and celebrating that.
And you were saying you hold a baby and everybody wants to talk about the baby and stuff like that. That's great.
It's more, and it distracts you from, okay, you're the older generation, I'm the newer generation, I'm not the threat. It's a celebration kind of thing.
That's great. I often wonder if with the political situation right now, if the Mandela effect is happening. You know the Mandela effect, where half the population remembers him dying in prison and half remembers, realize, that he lived on and came to the United States and stuff like that. This is a very interesting thing, where there's a lot of them now. I was trying to get this guy on the podcast that worked for a food company. If people remember Stouffer stovetop stuffing, there was never a Stouffer stovetop stuffing. And if you call Kraft, they go, no, there was only Kraft stovetop stuffing. And there's plenty of them where I think the timeline has split.
I've heard that with Bernstein Bears.
Yes, exactly.
Bernstein, I don't know.
And Fruit Loops, how do you spell fruit? F-R-O-O-T or F-R-U-I-T? There's a ton of them. And I wonder if, because it's so split on who Trump is, I wonder if we're literally in two timelines at once.
I could see that.
Because it's not even close.
Yeah, and you're kind of simultaneously living both, or at least maybe some people are living one.
It's bleeding over, and we're all sort of on the fringe, and we can't see the middle.
Yeah, I could see that.
Maybe we'll know someday. I'm not sure, but I love that about that. So do people contact you for readings too?
Yes, so I do readings, reincarnatedmystic.com. And I think I specialize in ancestral stuff that you've taken on that you're trying to transmute, because I think that's part of getting into the new world.
Which was getting rid of one of my next questions. People need to know about this stuff. Yeah,
I can see your eyes lighting up.
Yeah, I know,
yes.
And they're all, the pink eye is just flourishing right now.
Yeah, because when you look at energy, you're taking on that energy from your mom and your dad's side, and part of moving into 5D is getting rid of all of that trauma stuff, and that is a big burden. And that's the part that people don't really want to see. What was the problem with my ancestors? They had a great life. And it's no, that stuff is serious trauma for a human experience. And we have to clear that out. It takes time.
So is that somebody that comes from someone that a long time ago owned slaves in the South? So that sort of makes it to their energy or DNA up here in this time?
I think so, because I think that the thoughts and consciousness at that time gets translated. It might be sifted out and weeded out a little bit, but I still think that it comes down, because slavery was only 60 years ago?
Not that long ago.
Yeah, not that long ago. That's what, 2 generations, one generation?
Yeah. And that's a whole interesting concept that I think people don't get. Ancestral karma. And we actually have, it's kind of interesting, because I started to learn about this during 9/11, and everyone was like, freedom isn't free. And I was like, no. This is the United States karma coming back. I wish it could be better. But, and after, remind me to talk about the shadow side. So people may not even know that they're carrying this burden from their ancestors.
No, it's kind of like when you study evolution, you evolve into something, I don't want to say better, but more survival based. Like I don't have the same financial things that my grandfather had because I've evolved into a different energy, but I can't be a completely different energetic form because he's part of my ancestry.
Right.
So whatever limiting, and my grandpa was part of the Great Depression and wars, and like a lot of us are. So I take some of those mindsets in, and it's still part of my energy. And for me to move forward where there is no scarcity and the idea of wars and danger from other people isn't there, I have to move through that. But people are, I don't want to say people, some people don't see that, and so they ignore it. You know, we're not in that time period anymore, but it's still there.
It's amazing how threatened people feel.
Yeah.
And everybody feels it in a different way, but I mean, I feel like it's so interesting. This is such a weird thing, but it was like I knew I was in Utah when I went into Walmart, and they had all these pictures of animals, because, you know, I'm a big animal rights person, and the target right on them, like, hey, we're going to go hunting.
Oh, hunting.
And this is, I know, and I'm not necessarily anti-hunter if you eat the food, or I don't know. I'm so torn on the animal thing, and I also don't like to talk about it because it's not going to help right now. You know what I mean? Like, buy makeup that's not tested on animal. That's as far as I'll help you with that, you know. But it's too big of a leap right now. But it's interesting, and I don't know if this is my imagination, but I feel like quite an apparition to my family. Like, I don't know if I had many lifetimes with them. Like, I feel like I'm such a outside. Does that make sense? Can that happen?
It does. Yeah. In fact, I feel like a lot of people that I talk to that are in this desire to really shift things don't feel like they belong, I guess, in their family dynamic. And I don't know if they have different energies.
Right.
Some of that.
And it's not that I don't get along. I get along great with my family, and I go to see them every other month because we really have a great family dynamic. But I always sometimes feel like, where did I come from? And that's not an EVP. Sometimes on my podcast we get EVPs. When it's quiet in my house, somebody, Karen, or that was just people driving through Starbucks. So, all right, hold on one second, folks. We'll be right back. We all live busy lives. In fact, when I'm not podcasting, ghost hunting, performing stand-up comedy, or reading tarot for my clients, I'm trying to catch my breath and de-stress. All that on the go can really play havoc with your sleep and impact your health. That's why I'm so crazy about the relaxing benefits of CBD oil. But I care about what I put into my body, so I only look for the best. And that's how I found Zion Medicinals. The company was founded by Brian Caruso, who sought a natural pharmacy-grade solution for his wife's pain and insomnia. Zion Medicinals sources high-quality, healthcare-grade, premium hemp oil direct from an organic farm in Colorado, so you consistently get the best product every single time. The oils are full spectrum too, not CBD isolate, which means that every bottle contains all of the plant's naturally occurring compounds, including cannabinoids, flavonoids, and oils for a superior product. Every bottle is third-party tested to ensure it's pure and potent too. To get your Zen with Zion, check them out online at zionmedicinals.com. Tell them I sent you and use coupon code Karen20 for 20% off your first order. That's capital K, small AREN 20. Tell them Karen sent you. All right, so we're back. We got here just in time for the kids to get out of the cars and put on their jackets. So you do remote viewing, which is one of the most fascinating things to me. And were you trained, or are you doing it just happening, and what's the difference between remote viewing and psychic stuff?
So I did a lot of psychic stuff, and then I had a friend in California who had a friend that was trained from oh my gosh, I can't remember their name. There's a whole list of remote viewer
generals
people that
and
are
army people.
Yeah, and they were trained with them, so it was a very legit training course. So I got in on that, and it allowed for a lot of structure into my psychic ability, and it helps you have My mind just totally shut down right now.
You know what?
I just was
it's so funny. You know why it did that? Because I was just thinking, I can't believe she thought she was gonna blank on this, and I put it in your head.
But anyway,
she was showing you the remote viewing, and it tapped into your psychic stuff.
Yeah, well,
and it all clicked together.
Yeah, so remote viewing was utilized by the military, so it works really well for people that don't have a lot of psychic abilities.
Because it's rules.
There's a lot of rules,
C, D.
but it also works better for people that have some expression, some creativity. They're okay with feeling into things, so you can't be too logical. You have to have some of that. But I kind of morphed the two. So I took what I learned from remote viewing, and I feel like I use those to help others that are not super psychic to try to get into that. But then I use a lot more psychic, I think, abilities to really get into what I'm viewing and feeling and stuff.
And so that view would be I guess in my class, I took a parapsychology class, and it was amazing. And they say it's more like live TV.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you can, well, for me, I'm experiencing it like I am living a story, and I just I'm writing this story out, and I'm I feel like I was killed. I feel, and you feel like you're in this drama. That's how it happens for me anyway.
I'm very fascinated because I think remote viewing is, and of course everybody wants to help the police, which I guess, I don't know if that's a badge of honor with psychics or what, but I would, you want to help. You're if I
feel like it's sad when someone loses someone they love, and you're I want to know where that person is.
Yeah, and I feel like remote viewing is the ticket on that one.
Yes, I love remote viewing for missing people.
Yeah.
Yes, but then it was interesting because the person that taught me was you have to be careful because there's some soul contracts.
Oh.
So there could be this idea of the killer and the victim and all this stuff that you as a third party coming in that is not involved in those soul decisions, you have to just really step back and first view if you are allowed to even view that person in that experience. Does that make sense?
It does, because you know what? I feel and I hear this, I like the tarot because it allows me to go in and go yes or no, go kind of really dig in on details if I can't get them psychically. And a lot of times my friend April will say, I'm not allowed that information, which is very interesting to me. And she asked me about someone, and I said, she'll only show me the right side of her face. And she goes, oh, she blocked me too. And I was like, oh, that's what that is. Do you think that is our... we have to make that decision, don't tell them this, or do you think sometimes it's just blocked and you're no?
I think it's blocked because I think spirit blocks me. I think sometimes they back off if their loved one asks a question and I can't get it. I'm I can't give you that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And they don't, it's funny because I think they do that. Somebody said to me something about, I was watching a psychic class, and the lady said, you're not supposed to, I forget what she called it, but it would be if I had a boyfriend and I said to you, can you look at his ex-wife?
It's like spying, right?
See, but I never thought of it that way because I thought all the information is out there. So do you think that's kind of like an ethical weird line?
So I was trained that it is ethical because my teacher was I never view my wife. I never view, he had all these rules, and he said that it's a lot of your own soul and energy peeking into other people's energetic fields, and it becomes intertwined. So you don't know what you're taking on. So I feel I always ask for permission, even when I remote view, what am I able to see? What is of the light? Otherwise you kind of get entangled with all the junk out there, right?
Wow, probably, yeah. Wow, now I learned something new I'm going to incorporate in my readings to ask permission, because I usually just flip the cards and go. I know I'm terrible.
Well, and then maybe after, so the other thing I was trained with is after you are able to see what you see, you say, I'm removing myself from this, and I unblend my energy. Make that a conscious, choice, because you're blending kind of into their field, right? You're kind of getting into what they need to have, and you're becoming the medium for it. But now you're removing yourself so you're not entangled in their stuff.
Interesting. That's funny because sometimes I think when I don't keep up with that, I have a new cleansing ritual for before, but I get just sleep. Here's a weird question that you might know. Like I sleep so deep and I just am tired, like I'm just zapped. And it was funny because Jessa does readings and she used to call me and I used to be like, yep, phone's going off at 10, or you know what I mean? I'm almost in lockdown. And then after she started doing readings, she's like, I know why you lock down now. I get it. Like it just has to be shut off.
Yeah.
But there's when I dream, okay, you may not know this, I don't remember ever dreaming in good places. So a lot of my dreams are in either uncomfortable places or not nightmares, just like kind of. I don't know dreamland to be a happy place.
So intuitively, I would suggest that you are a person that likes joy, love, light, and your subconscious is going to those places where it feels more safe subconsciously, just to explore. Because we were talking about that duality, like exploring that side of that. Energetically, that part, but it doesn't feel safe when you're conscious.
Interesting. And I started doing shadow work this year, and I feel like at my age now, I can step back and go, "Oh, I was a jerk." You know what I mean? And not like punish myself for weeks. How would you suggest people do shadow work right now? Because I think they're calling me, and they're either severely depressed or stuck, and it's not that they feel like something almost came in from the outside and said,
Yeah.
But I think they just need to look at that shadow side and not punish.
Yeah, feel that guilt and shame of something that once was
like of
done.
Pink eye, the guilt of pink eye.
I think the thing. Why did I get pink eye?
What did I do? People are dying of cancer. I have pink eye. Oh my God, it's the end of the world.
Well, I heard it's painful.
No, actually, it's not at all. That's why I didn't even know I had it for a day or two because I never.
You probably passed it on to several people.
Well, I had it before when like the whole left side of my eye was like fluorescent, and I was still like, I don't know what this is. What do you think this is? What's wrong? And the doctor's like, this pink eye. But nobody got it from that, so hopefully they didn't. But anyways, enough about that.
Okay, so I would say the first step is to go into neutrality.
Okay.
Because, so I wouldn't deal with shadow work when you're in the shadow, like entirely, right? Like feeling just depressed and sad. And I've been there, like very dark stage where you're just like, I can't believe I hurt them, or, and you're just, you have to get to a point where you're in surrender to it and neutrality, where your emotions just feel like okay. You may not be super happy, but you're like, I'm okay with where I'm at right now. And then I think that's the perfect time to process all of that and just really dive deep into like, why did I do that? What was going through my mind? And then I actually ask the universe to bring me a similar experience so I can redo that and re-understand it. And it works, and it's scary because to redo it is harder sometimes than to even look back and try to process it, because you're like, yeah, I would have said, this stuff, and you like think theoretically, but then to do it again, it takes a lot more bravery and courage, and your heart has to start opening up.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm going to give you something I did when I was younger that I relive it and I don't quite know how to clear it, but so I took a job when I was in high school, like 2 weeks working as a nurse's aide at an old age home, which is even weirder because old people, how everybody has their heart goes out to something, like it's kids or kids in wheelchairs or whatever. Like mine is old people. Oh. Like I just want them all to be happy again or healthier. I don't know what it is. And that job was not for me. That is the hardest job in the world. It takes unbelievable compassion. And you know what? A high school kid that just wants a boyfriend is not the right person to be doing it. And I was like, I remember this woman was lying in bed and she was so weak, right? And I was trying to put her in bed and she just started to throw up. And I was like, oh my God, like I freaked out, right? And then I'll never forget, I was like, I need help, right? This older woman comes in that's been working there forever, just like this stereotype, this old black woman that has more love like than the universe. And I watched her come in and she clears it off and she's putting her hand on this woman's head and going, it's okay. It's like, and to this day, like I have to like scream that out of my head because I was like, I know I was a kid. I never encountered anything like this before. It was scary to me. I hated where I was. But to see that much compassion from someone, like, what do I got to do to get rid of that?
What do I got to do to not think about it?
I know.
I don't know. I think that lady must have been a really nice gift to just come in and show you what it looks like, because it seems like you're in a state of ignorance. What the heck do I do? And that state is like, everyone gets to that. They're like, I don't even know what to do right now.
Right.
And this lady was like, let me show you a really great way to handle this. And then so now you're like, okay, she was my teacher, and I don't have to feel guilty for being ignorant or being unknowing about what to do. She brought enlightenment, wisdom to me, and now I can do that to somebody in the future.
I hope so, because I hope I'll get that. It is weird, and although I don't know how to make it okay with that woman who probably was in half dementia and maybe not, you know what I mean, like kind of out of it, but that's no excuse. But I always feel like there was a car accident in front of my house. So there's this young girl, all the airbags are out. Oh my God. And this truck's going to roll us over as I start this.
Edible arrangements.
I know. Killed by edible arrangements. That would be hysterical. So she's sitting in the car, and I'm the only one that knows to go in and hold her hand and go, it's okay now. It's all over, and give her a hug. You know,
you did that.
I did that,
wow.
Yeah. And I've done that on several occasions. One woman, this poor Chinese woman, got in a car accident. 100% her fault. In the middle, took a turn down the road, just crazy. And the other woman gets out and starts yelling at her. So I take the Chinese woman aside, because I'm like, that doesn't help in that state of mind. And some guy comes over and goes, what happened? And I go, leave her alone. She just had a bad day. And he goes, no, I'm her husband. I can't help her. And I was like, oh. I go, all right, and I'm out of here now. But maybe that was the gift from it, because I still see that woman's face and how I was like, ah, you know what I mean? Like, if I would do anything to go back and change that.
I think that like we're such in an emotional world. Like, what was it about the emotion that really transmuted your feelings? And I think a lot of that was feeling safe. Like, how do you make someone feel safe in their moment of vulnerability?
Right.
And you have been able to do that in different ways now, and it will look different, but if the feeling's the same.
Yeah, it is interesting, because now it turned into therapy for me. Goodness gracious. But my dad's reaction to everything was anger. So that's where I think I went right to anger and like, what's going on? And then, so now maybe it's better. Unless my plane is late, then I will scream at anyone.
Then that's when the anger will kick in.
There's no compassion when airlines get messed up.
That's just and fair.
Wow. So say somebody's really stuck, they go to this place of neutrality and just sort of accept that we're human?
Yeah, because as a human, it's emotional. It's very emotional compared to, I feel like, other species. Jessa might agree. They're not that extreme in their emotions. It's not intense. Like, I remember last time on our podcast, I told you when I saw the alien, I was like, wow, you are beautiful. And like, I had so much like love for that physical appearance, and she was like freaked out by it. Like,
right.
It was weird. And so, yeah, the human experience is very emotional. And so just to bring yourself back up into like a little bit of a neutrality helps you be able to see it, I guess, in a more, I don't want to say logical, because I don't want to have that take over, but just in a way where you can gain wisdom from it and move forward.
And know that it's a plan. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that woman, I mean, I can't think of any karma in my space, but sometimes somebody having a car accident or something like that, and you think, why did that person hit me? Maybe you were going the wrong route. Maybe you were, when people get very stuck in that victimhood, that's when it's hard to do a reading for them.
Yeah, So either victimhood or they did nothing wrong.
Right.
Two, where they're like, nope, he did it all, know, and you're like, well.
I learned that lesson the other day with somebody that I read for their family, and I read for both of them, and one was really going after the other, and I kept bringing it back to her, and I was like, okay, well, you shift and then everybody shifts, kind of thing. And I find that lesson a lot, that I tell people, you shift and then they'll
do they
shift.
receive it, do you think?
Some do, some don't. Or usually I'll get a phone call, it'll work once, and then they forget. you know, but that's that, you know, we are in such desire. You know, that's interesting that being became very uncomfortable with love, and maybe we have found something here, because I never forget Tommy was joking with me, half joking, but I had said to him once, what if you really run into, Tommy's a demonologist, I don't know if I said that, everybody on the show knows I talk about all the time. I said, what if you see a demon? And he goes, walk up and go, how about a hug? And I know he was kind of kidding, because I can't imagine that now after the other situation, but that may be very uncomfortable for them.
That's interesting. Yeah. And maybe this entity had a demonic energy field or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
To show that expression of love was like,
Yeah, interesting. Wow. So, I think we only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to choose my topic well. I had 4 of them, and I'm going to pause for 1 second. Hang on. Okay, so I paused it because I wanted to ask about Deete's website and stuff, and then you got an image that I already love.
Okay, so the image was basically like this woman in like this white gown, and it was like this idea of extra-dimensional entities that were supporting the earth in transition into like greater love for each other. And there's like this idea of bringing that into earth. Like, I think people think that if we just leave, everything's going to be better, you know, or get out of here. I think there is this idea of bringing that here, because we're still in a very like beautiful physical world, and we haven't really tapped into like the capabilities that it has to provide for the human experience. Like, we've taken advantage of it. So I don't know, that just came through.
No,
I like this idea
great.
of integrating it here, so that we can have a better life here versus wanting to leave. Like,
right, or have it be over reincarnated. You know, that is interesting, because I'm looking for merch now. I'm all done with T-shirts. I'm not taking that around. I'm looking for little merch to sell. And I immediately went to reusable straws. And they hook on your keychain, and they just say Karen Rontowski or sucks or something on them, you know? And I thought, is that just a West Coast, East Coast thing, or is that everywhere? You know what I mean? Like, because I asked some of my cousins, and they were like, that sounds like bacteria. Why would we want a straw? And I was like, you didn't see the video with the turtles? But I'm getting suddenly, and this is where I feel like it's the universe and not me. Like, yes, I recycle and I do all that, but now all of a sudden things are really occurring to me, like how many plastic bags I'm using, how when you go to the airport, McDonald's hands you a styrofoam with a plastic thing covered in a bag and you're literally going 10 feet.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something just coming upon us now. 2 things in this thing where everything's changing. That and health.
Yeah, your body.
The body is getting very nice to see you ladies.
Well, there's I know, they're like, right. A lot of the things in my readings, a big thing in these light beings, they're really integrating plant medicine into the body. Like, and I think that plants have a higher frequency to ground you back into like the frequency of earth, instead of like medicine from pharmacies and stuff like that.
You know, I have noticed this more than ever before. Holistic stuff is really working fast.
Yeah, it works better for me now than
anything.
pharmacy stuff.
Right, and our vibration. Are you worried at all about 5G? That's why I got you the hematite or the.
Yeah, so I notice when I have electronics on my body has a weird tingle. Like, do you ever feel like it makes your body feel weird?
No, but my psychic teacher has the same. So I know you guys you're at that higher vibration. I haven't hit that yet. I'm working on it. Like I said, reach down during the rapture and pull me out.
I'm like, Karen.
We gotta have her. But this is why I'm very. In fact, this was what I might make is Karen Rontowski worry stones out of Shugnite.
That would be really cool. So this helps you with electronic frequency, right? Like
it helps you with all radiation. And it's called Russian Shugnite, and it's black, and it absorbs radiation. They have found that it, it's not just a woo-woo thing, like scientists are now using it. So while I was at the crystal store today buying this, I met 2 people outside the door, and I started talking it to them, and the woman said, and I'm going to find this article and read it to you. You know, bees are having so much trouble now. They can't find their way back to the hive, and that's some of the problem. So they put out some Russian Shugnite, and the bees landed on the Shugnite, took bits of it, and could find their way back to the hive.
That is a really crazy story.
Isn't
I'm
it?
like trying to understand if that could happen. Like, did they eat it?
I don't know. I can't imagine if they're taking cellular parts of it or what, because I can't imagine a bee carrying much.
Yeah, I'm like, could they take a bite of it? Or
I don't know.
Sting it and...
It must be. I know. I have to get the article and find, but I know.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's part of the Great Divide. Is there some people that are just like, that type of medicine is not going to work, and they're more into technology, and they're very adamant about that, that stuff, and it's going to bring people outside of the city and more into nature to have more of that, like, I don't know, I guess 5D stuff.
I think so, and also, but I wonder if there's a lot of people that just think 5G is going to be nothing. But basically, I got to get an expert on, but it's kind of like 4G was this wavelength that was going through us, and 5G is the smallest wavelength there is. So it's even more like molecular, even smaller going through us. So this kind of thing, and there was another podcast I did on biogeometry, shapes that kind of get things. You can buy paint that's anti-radiation paint and block your whole house out.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And people having trouble sleeping should shut off the Wi-Fi at night, because that's but there's there's anti-radiation blankets. It's all very expensive, but it's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
I don't think. But that's why I think people are moving out. Like Mill Valley in Northern California, which is one of the richest places you can ever live, they fought Verizon, no 5G in Mill Valley.
And how did it go?
Good, they won.
Oh, really?
4G is fine. Like it's weird that they're putting this upon us, because people that are putting up the towers are getting sick, and
like there's no need, basically, is what you're saying. Like we're fine with 4G. There's no need to.
No need. How much more information do you need that fast?
Well, so I had a creepy little reptilian come to me when I first was waking up, and part of their agenda is to integrate technology in the human, which I don't know if 5G does that. I would anticipate it probably does shift your DNA to be able to have a little bit more of a technological base.
I bet it does.
But they were saying like this, there was this idea of transfer, like with your thoughts, you could become almost like robotic.
You know what? And I know I've kept you too long already. There's a show on HBO called Years and Years, and it is a very political show, but I cannot say it's about the future. They're going the future, going the past. And there's a character in there that will blow your mind, and you'll watch it and you'll go, that is where we're going. And it's the young girl, and it's in the future. And you know how people do, I don't know if it's Snapchat or what, where they put the ears on and the
yeah.
She's doing that in real life.
Yeah, that's what they said. They said you could jump off a cliff and like have these wings come out of your body because your body's like biomechanical.
Wow.
Which is cool. That is cool, but is that the higher frequency?
Right. I don't know, but she kind of becomes her phone.
Yeah.
And it's not crazy. It's like when you watch it, you're like, oh my God.
That's what happened with the movie Lucy, too. The Scarlett Johansson, she became the computer.
Oh.
See, that's where we're going, right?
Oh, it is. Well, here's the last thing. I agree. There's this guy on called Tom Montauk that has these great, and he talks about how the Matrix's job is to keep us in this line. Keep us in line. So what you and I are doing are creating these offshoots that the Matrix doesn't like. So they give you pink eye.
They give you horrible pink eye.
Yeah, I love you. If I didn't have pink eye, I would give you a hug. Please tell everyone where they can find you and what's happening.
Reincarnatedmystic.com. I also have a YouTube. I also have a podcast where I talk about the various spiritual techniques that you can have outside of religion, which I think people feel lost. Like, if I don't have religion and I'm not atheist, what do I do? And so I talk to people with their path and what they have found helpful, and it's really fun.
That's wonderful. And get a class online.
Oh, for me?
Yes, teach a class online and I'll take it.
I still am learning how to do it, but yes, I will.
And you call me if you need any help. I know good people.
Okay.
I'm the connector.
You are, yes.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you can give me 5 stars or some sort of review wherever you listen, I will see you. I'll see you in 2020. We will get our predictions up, which Deete, I would love to have you put some in. We'll get our predictions up for the year. Stay safe. Send me your stories, whether they're conspiracies or ghost stories. I'll read them with Sister Sue. Have a great, I think this is my last one. No, it's not. All right, never mind. Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media, Mike Flynn.